the Falcon and the Winter Soldier? More like the Falcon versus the Winter Soldier, am I right? I don't know how relevant it is to do a Falcon and the Winter Soldier related video, given that the show ended like, what, 3 months ago? But, you know what? Whatever, I have these two uniforms. They came out like a couple of weeks ago, maybe even close to a month ago already. But yeah, whatever. I want to do a comparison on these two, even if most of us already know who's better in game. Let's see definitive proof of who is better between the Falcon, Captain America, and the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes. All right, so we have Sam Wilson, Captain America over here. These are the stats. I haven't really changed much since I did the videos on Falcon and Bucky separately. The only thing that's really changed is their uniform status, which was, I believe, heroic then, but it's legendary now. I'm very close to getting it mythic at this point, but yeah, we'll get there eventually. So that's Sam over here, almost mythic. I'm leveling up their uniforms at the same time, so they both have similar status for their uniforms. Now, both their builds are pretty okay in terms of stats. Bucky's stats are just a little more capped out. Falcon's are almost there. The main difference, I think, will be that Bucky will be operating with a 160 damage proc, while Falcon will be working with a 140 damage proc. So that may be the main difference. It also seems like Bucky, has more uniform options unlocked, but I don't think that's gonna affect the state of the comparison too much. And of course, they did fix his face, so that's a very significant buff for Bucky. It'll really help him in comparison against Sam Wilson. So without further ado, let's get into some content and see who's better between the two. Alright, so the first game mode that I wanted to compare these two in was ABX. This is Speed Hero Day, so I'm taking both Falcon and Bucky into ABX with a Nick Fury White Fox team up. Of course, both of them can take advantage of the White Fox support because they're both leadership type characters now. Now, I will say this is Paralysis Month when I'm recording this content. So when it comes to Paralysis Month, both Falcon and Bucky have paralysis on their tier 3 skills. So I kind of had to save their tier 3 skills at certain points to be able to cancel the Frost Beast's Roar. And that in turn may have kind of messed up their skill rotations at some points of the video. So this isn't a perfect run by any means, and really highlights one of the reasons why Rage is generally considered to be the best CTP for ABX type content. That combined with the fact that ABX is the type of game mode where there's so many mobs that come at you, results in the proc triggering at very random times when I don't necessarily want them to be triggered. Just because there's so many more characters to hit, it's so much more likely for the proc to get triggered. So again, this isn't a perfect run by any means. And this whole video, this whole comparison thing is kind of just for fun. So you shouldn't really put too much scientific stake into the experiment or whatever. But yeah, as you can see, Falcon is taking such a big lead against Bucky over here. He has almost double his score at this point already. It's kind of funny, if I'm being honest. It's like, you do this Falcon and the Winter Soldier type video comparing the two, and then it's just like, one character completely destroying the other. I don't know. It's just kind of funny to see, don't you think? And considering that when you look at the finest margins of my builds, Bucky kinda does have the advantage, given that he has, a higher damage proc, better ISO 8 set. Bucky was kind of done dirty this update, wasn't he? I mean, Bucky's definitely better now than he was, but he has a uniform that's released at the same time as another Speed Male Heroes uniform is released. That's just clearly so much better. I don't know. It's like they kind of set him up to fail, sort of. Or set him up to disappoint at the very least, So we're on the last minute of this ABX run, and I'm not gonna pretend that it's close as much as I want to, I kind of wanted to be like, oh, who's gonna end up with the higher score? But I feel like at this point, you kinda already know. Falcon is just so good. The fact that he has an obelisk and is putting up this score, like a normal obelisk. You can see the highest score that I have over there is around 6 million, and that's with Luna. Look, I'm not the best at playing ABX, okay? Don't roast my score too hard. But it's like Falcon is putting up numbers that are like, what, a little more or a little less than 2 million off of that score. The fact that he's competing with Luna with a Rage, I don't know, it just means that probably he could do so much better if I put a Rage on him. And I've kind of thought about it. I'm really considering putting a Rage or an Energy at the very least on this guy. Who knows what heights he can reach if I equipped him with a CTP. So yeah, Falcon's able to post a score of about 4.4 million, and that's with a 140 proc and without like a CTP of Insight to aid him or whatever. which is a pretty good score in my opinion. Bucky is just a little bit shy of 3 million. I feel like I could have gotten 3 million if I tried a little harder. But yeah, this is a score we end up, and it kind of shows the difference of Falcon and Bucky in a game mode like ABX. Now let's move on to the next piece of content. Don't you miss the days when World Boss Ultimate was like the most important game mode in Marvel Future Fight? Yeah, now we have World Boss Legend. But a lot of new players still have to, consider the difficulty of World Boss Ultimate for, their clears, because they can't reach World Boss Legend without doing World Boss Ultimate, right? So I feel like World Boss Ultimate is still a worthy piece of content to showcase, and it still is pretty challenging, especially when you get to like the really high stages, such as stage 99 of Corvus Glaive, which coincidentally is where we're doing our test with Falcon and Bucky over here. I'm only going to test to see how fast these characters can get Corvus into his next phase, basically kill him in that first round so that you can go into the second round. To make the run a little easier, I gave them both Venom and Apocalypse as strikers. Venom to kind of help with the healing, which would, I think, benefit Bucky a little more than Falcon, and Apocalypse for some mind control action to kind of keep Corvus from jumping around too much. So in a game mode like World Boss Ultimate, stuff like all defense down is very important, and I think looking at their kits on paper, Falcon and Bucky, they both have similar kits in the sense that they both have 50% all defense down on their 1 to 5 skill rotation that will apply, and on their tier 3 skill, both of them bump that up to 60% all defense down. This of course is before the amplification that comes from White Fox's leadership, which they're both taking advantage of in order to make the run go a little faster. And wouldn't you know it, Falcon is basically done with Corvus's first stage, while Bucky is still around that third bar. Well, that's another W for Falcon in this Falcon versus the Winter Soldier competition. This is looking quite sad for Bucky Barnes. And you know what? Those last 3 bars aren't going by very easily for him. Like, you'd think it's just 2 bars to go, that he'd be just right behind Falcon, but the fact that Corvus is one slippery boy, I think, is worse for Bucky than for Falcon, because Falcon's skills track Corvus, I think, a little better than Bucky's does. But Bucky does get it done in the end, just a little over 30 seconds behind Falcon's time. Let's move on to the next piece of content, and let's see if Bucky can maybe take a W of his own. So the last game mode we're gonna take these characters into is World Boss Legend Knull, and I tell you what, if you think Bucky Barnes can still take a W in this comparison, then I admire your resilience, your belief. Like, based on the other 2 tests, any person's belief in Bucky Barnes would be crushed by now. So if you still believe in the Winter Soldier, you know what? Props to you. Now, I will say that whereas in the other comparisons, Falcon and Bucky's kits were more comparable to each other, where they didn't really have an advantage over each other in terms of the all defense down and all of that, I think Falcon has a distinct advantage against World Boss Legend compared to Bucky, because Falcon on his 5th skill allows him to have 70% ignored dodge, while Bucky's ignored dodge kind of comes in bursts. It comes for 3 seconds on a 10-second cooldown. So Bucky doesn't always have 100% ignored dodge up, so his damage numbers do fluctuate, while Falcon's are more consistent in the sense that he can regularly put up his 70% all defense down, which is capped out at 100% given that he has Valkyrie as support. Now we can kind of see that Falcon's pulling way ahead of Bucky right now, and I will say that some of it is kind of due to that ignored dodge thing that I mentioned, but I think when you compare to the other content where both Bucky and Falcon's kits are kind of consistent with each other, where there's no clear advantage, I think it's also reasonable to say that Falcon just has more damage than Bucky does. So yeah, it does look like Falcon's gonna take another win over Bucky here. It just seems like Bucky has nothing that he does better than Falcon. Now look, this is mainly a PvE comparison. Maybe for PvP, Bucky's gonna be better, because he does have that counterattack skill that is pretty strong for PvP game modes. But just for PvE related content, it's like Bucky looks so disappointing. He really pales in comparison to Falcon. And yeah, you could say that Falcon is like the main character of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show. He's the one that Steve Rogers gave the shield to. So he's the one who, was kind of dealing with the whole shield drama and all of that. But it's Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I feel like they could have done a better job of making Bucky like on par with Falcon, especially if they were gonna give Falcon such a great and massive like rework. I feel like they could have done a little more for Bucky. And this is also considering the fact that we've had basically like a year with Bucky Tier 3, and when we got Tier 3, there was no uniform that was released alongside it. And this was, of course, because people knew that it was basically going to be for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, which was supposed to come out at the time. So people were like, okay, we'll be patient, we'll wait for the show to come out, and then maybe make a better evaluation of this uniform. And now that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier uniform is out, it's like, it's a little disappointing. People were patient with Bucky's Tier 3, and the results just kind of, you know, are not like amazing. So yeah, Falcon versus the Winter Soldier. Who comes out on top? It's Falcon. I think we all kind of knew that. This is just a fun little PvE showcase. Don't take it too seriously, but I hope it did kind of showcase how good these characters are when compared to each other, especially with like, you know, just normal damage proc obelisks. I hope that you were able to take something away from the video, and as always, thank you so much for watching.